Furthermore, I contacted him by phone and inquired, "Willie, are you aware that our film is currently celebrating its 50th anniversary and has been chosen as one of the finest comedies of the previous century?" I vowed to him that throughout my entire career, that would be the most memorable show I have ever performed. Yeah, that's right. For the 2.5 hours that I was on, I accomplished nothing less than perfection. Absolutely everything. This interview with Jerry Lewis was going to be my last. I hope that's all right now. Upon his passing in 2017, Jerry Lewis left two families behind. One was enjoying a life of plenty, while the other was mired in despair. His 6 sons had a chunk of his estate taken from them. Reports of abuse had persisted for decades, and now it had come to light that there was a secret daughter who was homeless. People could find it funny while they're around you. "What the hell was that?" I exclaimed as I exited the maternity ward, which was located in that section of the hospital. The celebrity who raised billions of dollars for charity had a darker side, and even his own children knew it. Never before has the tale of Jerry Lewis's last betrayal been told. In most cases, when you work with a good artist, they will want to keep the magic under wraps. Newark, New Jersey was the site of Jerry Lewis's birth on March 16, 1926. His famous parents, Danny and Ray Levitch, were in the entertainment industry. Danny was taking the stage as a vaudeville singer and comic, with Ray double as his musical director and pianist. Although Jerry had a lucky start in life due to his birth into show business, he did not always enjoy it. During his formative years, he lived through the Great Depression, when so many people were fighting for survival. Notwithstanding this, Jerry's childhood was jam-packed with energy and mischief. Pranks, including skulking into people's kitchens and pilfering food, were his favorite pastime. His vivacious personality hinted at the comedian he would one day become. Jerry first performed for an audience when he was only 5 years old. One of the world's most famous locations for Jewish performers, his parents brought him to the Catskill Mountains. Stage performances of "Brother, Can You Spare a Dime" by a youthful Jerry were shown. Many of the individuals listening to the song could clearly feel the pain of the times. Putting on a show in the Catskills was more than just for fun. This was Jerry's initial exposure to the performing arts. When Jerry's parents had to go on business travels, he would often stay with his grandma. Being abandoned left him with a sense of isolation that would later inform his comic writing. Jerry had a brilliant idea when he was just 12 years old. The record act was his creation. It was a series of routines in which he would use his voice to imitate popular songs. His performances were memorable for being both funny and outrageous, since he lip-synced and overacted everything. Jerry put in a lot of time in front of the mirror to improve his facial expressions and movements. This act, which would later become his signature, demonstrated his extraordinary talent and creativity at an early age. Jerry had already accomplished his lifelong dream of having a full-time job in the entertainment industry by the time he was a teenager. Leaving secondary school at the age of 15, he dedicated himself fully to his acting profession. Even though it was a huge risk, Jerry was adamant on taking it. He got his start performing in New York City's theaters and watering holes. Quite a handful of the performances bombed. He struggled to secure additional burlesque engagements after an unsuccessful performance at one of his shows. Soda jerk and theater usher were only two of Jerry's low-paying professions that he juggled throughout his life. But this didn't stop him. He kept going because he was determined. Jerry decided to change his stage name during this time. Initially, he went by Joey Lewis, but fans occasionally mixed him up with Joe, the boxer, and other Lewis family members, including other entertainers. He wanted to be known for something, so he changed his name to Jerry Lewis. Despite its small size, the tweak marked the start of a major transformation. The world of comedy will never be the same after the 1945 meeting of Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. New York City's Glass Hat nightclub was hosting a comic named Jerry who was just 23 years old. The 28-year-old singer Dean caught Jerry's eye because of his magnetic presence and stunning good looks. Sometime later, Jerry said that, in his opinion, Dean was the most handsome man he had ever laid eyes on. Their decision to take the stage is based on a single factor. It is the intention to amuse that group of people. The brief interaction was sufficient to ignite something despite its brevity. Jerry persisted throughout the year in going to Dean's shows and doing everything he could to become friends with him in an attempt to build a relationship. Jerry was initially unimpressed by Dean, who dismissed him as an annoying youngster, but when both men were set to play in Atlantic City's 500 Club in July of 1946, things started to shift. The club owner was so unhappy with their individual performances that he threatened to dismiss them unless they could work together and come up with something new. Because of the short notice, they had to make do with what they had. Onstage mayhem ensued as Jerry started to boo Dean's singing. The fact that the crowd just couldn't get enough of their antics shocked them. They decided to start a partnership that night. After just a short time together, Martin and Lewis were headliners at clubs around the East Coast. Jerry's untamed and unpredictable actions combined with Dean's smooth and confident demeanor to form a unique comedy duo. They signed with MCA, widely regarded as one of the most powerful talent agencies in the nation, and by the end of the year they were making $5,000 weekly, a huge sum for that time. They went from relative obscurity as artists to overnight fame in the span of 18 months. Their star power skyrocketed as they started performing at nightclubs and made radio appearances. The fast-pacing conversation between them, Dean's singing, and Jerry's slapstick humor created an electric environment throughout their concerts. By 1948, they had become headline acts at illustrious venues such as New York City's famous Copacabana. More people than ever before were able to hear The Martin and Lewis Show when it debuted on NBC in 1949. After that, I place it in the freezer and eat it frozen. Love is something that happens to everyone. Instantly, the show became a smashing hit, and millions of people continue to tune in each week to enjoy their musical performances, comedic sketches, and unplanned moments. Notable for one episode in particular, Jerry tried to evade Dean's Thanksgiving fry-up by dressing up like a turkey. Thanks to Jerry's ridiculous pranks and Dean's unflappable reactions, everyone listening couldn't help but laugh out loud. When they started working in radio in 1950, they were making 15 grand a week. They were able to go from radio to television thanks to their radio success, and their subsequent meteoric rise to fame was unparalleled. After that, in 1949, Martin and Lewis had their big screen debut in the Hollywood blockbuster My Friend Irma. After starring in 16 films together over the next 7 years, they were Paramount Pictures' biggest stars. Combining slapstick humor, clever banter, and a lot of music in their films and TV shows, they built a combination that fans loved. One of their early hits and a contributor to their status as movie stars was 1951's At War with the Army. The film's modest budget resulted in over $15 million in earnings. Another smash hit for them, Living It Up, made almost $20 million when it came out in 1954. The success of their 1956 picture Hollywood or Bust, their last collaboration, proved that their on-screen chemistry was unmatched, even as their rift deepened. Paramount was able to persevere through tough times thanks to the incredible sum of over $200 million that their pictures grossed. Martin and Lewis were the highest-paid entertainers in the world in the early 1950s. They were successful in many different areas. Movies, radio, TV, and nightclubs were all under their control. In 1953, they signed the largest television contract ever with NBC, a $35 million historic deal. Their earnings from their appearances on the Colgate Comedy Hour were $20,000 each episode, or $200,000 in today's money. They were raking in millions of dollars from their movies, concerts, and radio gigs, which together brought in about $5 million a year. The average yearly household income in the United States was about $4,400. So that puts it in context. That sum of money was amassed by Martin and Lewis in less than 24 hours. In addition to their performing careers, they expanded their creative control and financial stability by launching York Pictures, their production company. They also expanded their fortune even further through smart investments in real estate and other enterprises. However, their incredible success did not come without cost. Their exhaustion was a direct outcome of their jam-packed schedule, which included filming, live performances, and TV appearances. The pressure to stay at the top, especially when Jerry started to put greater emphasis on their company and creative autonomy, strained their friendship. When the degree of animosity between them reached an intolerable level in 1956, they decided to end their partnership. For one of the most iconic and prosperous comedy teams in Hollywood history, it was the end of an era. Their split may have ended a wonderful chapter in their lives, but they were groundbreaking figures in comedy, and their legacy will endure. Nobody could have foreseen the meteoric rise of Jerry Lewis's solo career. Just 11 years after they had collaborated with Dean Martin, on July 25, 1956, they gave their last performance as a duet at New York City's Copacabana. Just 2 weeks after that, Lewis had an unexpected opportunity that changed his life forever. The event that was intended to take place at the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas was postponed because Judy Garland was ill with strep throat. The call for Lewis to take over came at the last possible moment. He bravely took the stage in front of a crowd waiting for Garland to perform, despite his lack of preparation time. He then proceeded to sing "Rockabye Your Baby" with a Dixie tune, a song he hadn't sang since he was a child, as the finale of his 55-minute impromptu comedy show. The crowd exploded in cheers as they gave him a standing ovation. At that same second, everything changed. While still riding high from his Las Vegas breakthrough, Lewis recorded "Rockabye Your Baby" just 3 days later. The song became an immediate hit after selling over 1.5 million copies. His debut solo effort, Jerry Lewis Just Sings, came out not long after that. After only a short time on the charts, it soared to PM the following evening, and later that same day, after a full 16 weeks, a Billboard hit. Those in the know in the industry were shocked by his achievement, since they had doubted his abilities without Dean Martin. Lewis had already become a household name by 1959. On March 3rd, he inked a landmark deal with Paramount Pictures that would pay him $10 million plus 60% of the profits from 14 films over 7 years. The deal not only made him the highest paid actor in Hollywood, but it also gave him tremendous creative freedom, such as the ability to own his films even after 30 years and make changes to the final cut. Legend has it that Paramount boss Barney Balaban once joked, "If Jerry wants to burn down the studio, I'll give him the match." Lewis proved he could carry a film solo with the 1957 release of The Delicate Delinquent. After Martin and Lewis broke up, the script had to be reworked since it had been planned as a joint endeavor. Lewis devoted a great deal of time and energy to revising the story, often staying up late to ensure that every scene was just right. Critics predicted the picture would bomb due to Lewis's high-energy comedic style not having enough chemistry with Martin, but the opposite was true. The picture made nearly $6 million. It more than doubled the profits of the last Martin and Lewis picture. The critics were very complimentary of Lewis's performance, especially in a powerful scene where his character, Sidney Pythias, delivers a moving speech about the value of self-acceptance. Insisting on capturing this moment gave the impression that Lewis wanted to be more than just a slapstick comedian in general. The Bellboy, a film that Lewis conceived, scripted, and shot in a span of 3 weeks in 1960, signaled Lewis's transition from acting to directing. Despite Paramount's wishes that he release Cinderfella that summer, Lewis adamantly stated that the picture was a holiday feature. To make up for the summer's absence, he conceived of the silent comedy The Bellboy, which was filmed at Miami's Fontainebleau Hotel. Lewis created the now standard method for video support while filming, which allowed him to evaluate takes in real time and contributed to the overall quality of the final result. Launching at almost $10 million upon its premiere on July 20th, 1960, the film was an enormous hit. The popularity of the film catapulted Lewis to star, direct, produce, and write. It was hailed by critics as an exceptional work of visual comedy. Lewis portrayed the role of the inept Professor Julius Kelp, as well as his smart friend Love in the 1963 film The Nutty Professor. For Lewis, this was the zenith of his creative potential. Lewis spent a lot of effort perfecting Kelp's nasal voice and manner after meeting a man who was socially awkward before.